Did you ever stop and think about those bathroom items from the 1970s that are now illegal? These products sat on shelves and inside cabinets without anyone questioning their safety. So what hidden dangers were quietly waiting behind the medicine cabinet door? Mercury glass thermometers in medicine cabinets were the most trusted tool for checking fevers in every household across the nation. Parents would shake them with a quick flick of the wrist, slip them under a child's tongue, and wait patiently for that thin silver line to climb or fall. The glass felt cool against the lips, and the ritual of reading the tiny numbers became a comforting part of being cared for when you felt sick. Nobody thought twice about what made that shimmering line move so smoothly. Mercury, the very substance that allowed the thermometer to work, was sitting inches from toothbrushes and everything else the family touched each morning. A single drop, one crack on a tile floor, and suddenly an invisible danger spread across the bathroom without anyone realizing it. Children watched the silver beads scatter and sometimes tried to touch them, fascinated by how they rolled and split apart. It took decades for regulators to understand how toxic even small exposures could be. Today, these thermometers are banned from sale, and families are urged to dispose of old ones through hazardous waste programs. Hexachlorophene antibacterial soap was marketed as the cleanest, safest way to wash skin in the 1970s, and parents trusted it completely. Hospitals used it on newborns, families kept it beside bathroom sinks, and advertisements promised protection against germs that ordinary soap could never touch. The creamy lather felt luxurious, and the faint medicinal smell reassured people that it was working harder than anything else on the shelf. Mothers bathed infants in it daily, believing they were giving their children the healthiest start possible. What no one realized was that hexachlorophene absorbed through the skin and accumulated in the body with repeated use. Researchers eventually discovered that the chemical caused brain damage in infants and neurological problems in adults who used it regularly. The revelation shocked families who had trusted the product without hesitation. Regulators moved quickly once the evidence became undeniable, banning hexachlorophene from over-the-counter products entirely. Looking back, it feels deeply unsettling to know that something used to protect the most vulnerable carried dangers no parent could have imagined. Lead-based bathroom paint covered walls, ceilings, and window frames throughout the 1970s, giving bathrooms that bright, clean look families loved. The glossy whites, soft pastels, and cheerful colors made small spaces feel fresh and inviting. Painters applied it without masks, homeowners touched up chips with bare hands, and nobody questioned what made the finish so durable. Lead was the secret ingredient that helped the paint resist moisture and peeling in humid bathroom air. Children leaned against painted walls, pressed their faces near windowsills, and played in tubs surrounded by surfaces slowly releasing invisible dust. As paint aged and flaked, tiny particles drifted onto towels, toothbrushes, and every surface the family touched. Doctors eventually connected rising cases of developmental delays to lead exposure inside homes. When regulators banned lead paint for residential use, the news shocked families who had lived surrounded by it for years. Remediation became expensive and complicated, leaving many homes with layers of danger hidden beneath newer coats. Today, those old bathroom walls serve as a reminder that beauty and safety do not always share the same formula. Asbestos pipe insulation wrapped around hot water pipes beneath bathroom sinks was considered a smart, practical choice in the 1970s. The material kept pipes from losing heat, prevented condensation, and seemed like the kind of sensible upgrade every homeowner should make. Plumbers installed it routinely, and families never gave it a second thought as they reached beneath sinks for cleaning supplies. The insulation looked harmless, wrapped neatly in a grayish-white covering that blended into the background of everyday life. But asbestos does not stay contained forever. As the material aged, cracked, or was disturbed during repairs, microscopic fibers escaped into the air. These fibers were small enough to float invisibly through bathrooms and lodge deep inside lungs, where they caused damage that sometimes took decades to appear. When researchers connected asbestos exposure to deadly diseases, the true cost of this common insulation became horrifyingly clear. Regulators banned its use in homes, and specialized removal teams became necessary for safe disposal. Families who once appreciated the practicality of wrapped pipes now faced expensive remediation. Aerosol hairsprays with CFC propellants were a bathroom essential in the 1970s, releasing clouds of hold and shine with every press of the nozzle. The satisfying hiss filled the air as perfectly styled hair became stiff enough to survive humidity, wind, and an entire day of activity. Teenagers, mothers, and grandmothers alike kept cans lined up on bathroom counters, using them daily without a single worry about what floated out alongside the sticky mist. Chlorofluorocarbons made these sprays work beautifully, creating a fine, even application that no pump bottle could match. Bathrooms filled with the sweet chemical scent every morning, and nobody imagined that each spray was contributing to a global crisis. Scientists eventually discovered that CFCs rose into the atmosphere and destroyed the ozone layer, protecting Earth from harmful radiation. The findings sparked international alarm and led to sweeping bans that removed these propellants from consumer products entirely. Families who had used hairspray innocently for years suddenly realized their morning routines had contributed to environmental damage on a planetary scale. Today, CFC propellants are completely forbidden. Phenol-based toilet bowl cleaners promised the deepest clean a bathroom could achieve, and families in the 1970s trusted them to destroy every germ lurking beneath the rim. The liquid poured out thick and pungent, swirling through the water with a chemical intensity that made scrubbing feel almost unnecessary. People believed that the stronger the smell, the harder the product was working, and these cleaners delivered a scent powerful enough to sting the eyes. Parents kept bottles under sinks within easy reach, never imagining that the very strength they prized could turn dangerous in an instant. Phenol burned skin on contact, released fumes that irritated lungs, and posed serious risks if accidentally swallowed or splashed. Children who wandered into bathrooms sometimes encountered spills or residue left behind on seats. Emergency rooms treated chemical burns and poisoning cases linked directly to these products. When regulators finally restricted phenol concentrations and banned the harshest formulas, families were forced to reconsider what clean really meant. The memory of those powerful cleaners lingers as a reminder that effective does not always mean safe. Carbon tetrachloride spot removers were kept in bathroom cabinets throughout the 1970s, ready to tackle stubborn stains on clothes and tiles at a moment's notice. The liquid worked fast, dissolving grease and grime with an efficiency that seemed almost magical. People dabbed it onto collars, rubbed it into towels, and used it to clean bathroom fixtures without protective gloves or ventilation. The sharp chemical smell filled small bathrooms quickly, but nobody connected that odor to any real danger. Carbon tetrachloride evaporated into the air and entered the body through skin contact and inhalation, quietly damaging the liver and kidneys with every exposure. Families stored these bottles beside medicine and personal care products, never suspecting that a single container held something so hazardous. When researchers documented the serious health effects of repeated exposure, regulators moved to ban the chemical from consumer products entirely. Today, carbon tetrachloride is classified as a probable carcinogen, and its presence in old bathroom cabinets serves as a chilling reminder of how casually dangerous substances were once handled. Hair dryers without ground fault protection were plugged into bathroom outlets every morning throughout the 1970s, humming loudly as families rushed through their routines. These early models delivered powerful heat, but lacked the safety features that would later become mandatory. People used them inches from running faucets, balanced them on wet countertops, and never considered what might happen if water and electricity met at the wrong moment. The combination of steam, splashing sinks, and bare electrical cords created conditions that today seem unthinkable. Tragically, electrocutions occurred when dryers fell into bathtubs or sinks, and the results were often fatal. Children and adults alike died from accidents that happened in seconds, turning ordinary mornings into devastating tragedies. When regulators finally required ground fault circuit interrupters in bathroom outlets and within hairdryers themselves, the death toll dropped dramatically. Families who had never questioned their morning routine suddenly understood how close they had come to disaster. Today, those old hair dryers are banned, and their memory serves as a reminder that electrical safety in wet spaces matters. Talcum powder with asbestos contamination was dusted onto bodies after baths throughout the 1970s, leaving skin feeling soft, dry, and fresh. Families kept the iconic bottles on bathroom shelves, shaking the fine white powder onto babies, children, and adults without any hesitation. The ritual felt wholesome and caring, a gentle finishing touch after washing that mothers passed down through generations. Nobody imagined that the mines producing talc often contained naturally occurring asbestos, or that microscopic fibers could be hiding inside every bottle. People inhaled the powder as it puffed into the air, coating lungs with particles that would not reveal their damage for decades. Researchers eventually connected contaminated talc to cancers and respiratory diseases, sparking lawsuits and regulatory action. The revelation devastated families who had used the product lovingly on their children for years. Manufacturers faced pressure to test products, and some formulations were pulled from shelves entirely. Today, the talcum powder that once symbolized purity carries warnings and restrictions that would have seemed unimaginable in the 70s. Lead acetate hair dye products sat on bathroom shelves throughout the 1970s, promising a gradual, natural-looking way to cover gray hair without harsh color changes. Users applied the product daily, combing it through their hair and watching as gray strands slowly darkened over weeks of faithful use. The process felt sophisticated and subtle, appealing to people who wanted to look younger without anyone noticing the transformation. What they did not realize was that lead acetate absorbed through the scalp with every application, entering the bloodstream and accumulating in the body over time. The heavy metal built up silently, and users had no way of knowing how much they had absorbed until symptoms appeared. Researchers documented elevated lead levels in regular users, connecting the product to neurological problems and other serious health effects. When regulators finally banned lead acetate from hair dyes, the decision came after decades of widespread use that had exposed millions of people. Families who trusted the gentle darkening process were shocked to learn they had been applying a toxic heavy metal to their heads. Chloroform-based mouthwashes promised the freshest breath imaginable in the 1970s, and families kept them lined up on bathroom shelves like trusted soldiers against bad odors. The liquid burned slightly as it swished through teeth and gums, and people believed that sensation meant it was killing every germ in its path. Advertisements showed confident smiles and romantic moments, all thanks to a quick rinse before heading out the door. Nobody questioned what gave these products their powerful kick or why the taste lingered so long after spitting. Chloroform, the very ingredient that made these mouthwashes feel so effective, was quietly doing far more than freshening breath. It absorbed through the soft tissues of the mouth and entered the bloodstream with every use. Scientists eventually classified it as a probable carcinogen, linking regular exposure to serious health risks. When regulators finally pulled these formulas from store shelves, families were stunned to learn their daily hygiene ritual had carried such hidden consequences. The mouthwashes that once symbolized cleanliness and confidence became cautionary tales about trusting products without understanding what they contain. Formaldehyde-releasing shampoos were sold throughout the 1970s as the secret to smooth, manageable, beautiful hair that turned heads wherever you went. People lathered them into their scalps without hesitation, massaging the creamy foam through every strand while steam from the shower filled the bathroom. The promise of silky hair seemed worth every penny, and families kept these bottles within easy reach of the tub. What nobody realized was that formaldehyde slowly released from the formula, drifting into the warm, humid air of enclosed bathrooms. Each shower created a small cloud of vapor that people breathed in deeply while scrubbing and rinsing. Over time, researchers discovered that formaldehyde was a known carcinogen, capable of causing serious damage with repeated exposure. The same ingredient that helped preserve hair's shine was quietly affecting the lungs and bodies of anyone who used it regularly. When health agencies finally restricted formaldehyde in personal care products, the news left many families feeling betrayed. A product meant to enhance beauty had instead introduced a genuine health risk, into one of the most intimate daily routines. DDT-containing lice treatment shampoos were applied directly to children's heads throughout the 1970s, promising to eliminate every crawling pest with a single wash. Parents rubbed the formula into their kids' scalps, working it through hair and letting it sit while the chemical did its work. The smell was sharp and medicinal, but people trusted that anything strong enough to kill lice must be doing its job properly. Schools sent notes home recommending these treatments, and families bought them without a second thought. Nobody imagined that the same pesticide sprayed on crops and blamed for environmental devastation was now being massaged into the tender skin of children. DDT absorbed through the scalp and accumulated in the body, building up with each treatment until levels became concerning. Scientists eventually connected DDT exposure to hormone disruption, developmental issues, and long-term health problems. When regulators banned the chemical from consumer products, the revelation horrified parents who had trusted these shampoos completely. The memory of rubbing poison into their children's hair while trying to help them still haunts many families today. Mercury-based skin-lightening creams sat on bathroom counters throughout the 1970s, promising brighter, more even complexions with faithful daily use. People applied them to their faces, necks, and hands, rubbing the thick creams into skin that absorbed every drop without resistance. The results seemed magical at first, with dark spots fading and skin appearing smoother than ever before. Nobody questioned what made these creams so effective or why the changes happened so quickly. Mercury, the active ingredient responsible for the lightening effect, was silently poisoning users through their own skin. The heavy metal accumulated in organs, disrupted nervous systems, and caused damage that sometimes took years to fully appear. Families trusted these creams because they worked, never imagining that the price of beauty could be so dangerously high. When regulators finally banned mercury from cosmetic products, the news spread through communities still using creams passed down from mothers and grandmothers. The promise of brighter skin had come with a cost nobody ever expected, turning bathroom vanities into sources of invisible harm. Phenolphthalein laxatives were found in nearly every medicine cabinet throughout the 1970s, those familiar pink pills that promised gentle relief whenever digestion slowed down. Families trusted them completely, handing them to children and adults alike without hesitation or concern. The pills worked reliably, and their cheerful color made them seem almost harmless, like candy with a purpose. People took them for years, sometimes decades, believing they were simply helping their bodies function normally. Nobody imagined that something so common could carry serious risks hidden beneath its pleasant appearance. Researchers eventually discovered that phenolphthalein was linked to cancer, and the evidence mounted until regulators had no choice but to act. The ban came swiftly, pulling these familiar pink pills from pharmacy shelves and forcing manufacturers to reformulate products. Families who had relied on them for generations were shocked to learn their trusted remedy had been quietly dangerous all along. The medicine cabinet staple that once seemed so innocent became a symbol of how easily harmful ingredients slipped into everyday life during an era when regulations lagged behind science. Unshielded bathroom heat lamps hung from ceilings throughout the 1970s, glowing bright red as they warmed cold tile floors and steamy mirrors on winter mornings. Families loved stepping out of the shower into that gentle warmth, and the lamps became essential fixtures in homes where central heating struggled against drafty windows. People flicked them on without a thought, never considering what might happen if something went wrong. The bare bulbs burned intensely hot, and their exposed elements had no protection against moisture, dust, or accidental contact. Towels hung too close, sometimes singed at the edges, and curious children occasionally reached up to touch the glowing glass. When bulbs shattered from thermal shock or water splashes, hot fragments scattered across bathrooms where bare feet walked moments later. Fire investigators traced numerous house fires back to these unshielded lamps, and burn units treated patients whose skin had pressed against overheated fixtures. Regulators eventually required protective covers and safety features that made the old designs obsolete. Today, those bare red bulbs serve as reminders that warmth and danger sometimes radiate from the same source. Benzene-containing aftershaves and colognes were splashed onto freshly shaved faces every morning throughout the 1970s, their sharp scents signaling the start of another day. Men patted the liquid onto their cheeks and necks, feeling the familiar sting that meant they were clean, presentable, and ready to face the world. Bottles lined bathroom shelves like trophies, each one promising confidence and sophistication with every application. Nobody questioned the ingredient lists or wondered what gave these products their distinctive bite. Benzene, a chemical now known to cause blood cancers and serious health problems, was quietly absorbing through skin with every splash. The ritual that made men feel polished and professional was simultaneously introducing a carcinogen directly into their bodies. When researchers finally connected benzene exposure to leukemia and other diseases, the findings shook an industry built on promises of health and vitality. Regulators moved to ban benzene from personal care products, but the damage to long-term users was already done. The morning routine that once symbolized self-care had carried risks nobody saw coming. Lead-soldered copper water pipes delivered every drop of water used in bathrooms throughout the 1970s, from the first splash on a sleepy face to the last rinse before bed. Plumbers installed them proudly, believing copper was the finest material available for carrying clean water through American homes. The pipes gleamed when new, and families trusted that anything flowing through them must be pure and safe. Nobody thought about the solder joining each section together or what happened when water sat in contact with those metal seams overnight. Lead slowly leached into the water, contaminating every drink from the bathroom faucet and every bath drawn for children at the end of the day. The levels built up invisibly, and families consumed tainted water for years without any warning signs. When scientists finally connected lead exposure in drinking water to developmental delays, learning problems, and lasting health damage, the revelation was devastating. Regulators banned lead solder, but countless homes still contained pipes that continued leaching poison into every drop. The infrastructure meant to deliver life's most essential resource had been quietly harming families all along. Radium dial alarm clocks sat on bathroom shelves throughout the 1970s, their glowing green numbers visible through steam and darkness whenever someone needed to check the time. Families kept them beside sinks and on windowsills, appreciating how the luminous hands stayed bright without batteries or electricity. The soft glow seemed almost magical, a tiny piece of science fiction tucked into everyday life. Nobody questioned what made the numbers shine so reliably, or why the glow never seemed to fade. Radium, the radioactive element painted onto those clock faces, was quietly emitting radiation into small enclosed spaces where families spent time every single day. Bathrooms offered little ventilation, and the radiation accumulated in ways nobody understood at the time. When scientists documented the dangers of prolonged radium exposure, including bone cancer and radiation poisoning, the clocks suddenly seemed far less charming. Regulators moved to eliminate radium from consumer products, but many families still had these clocks tucked away on shelves and in cabinets. The glow that once felt comforting now carries an unsettling legacy of invisible danger. Asbestos-backed vinyl bathroom flooring was installed in homes across the nation throughout the 1970s, promising waterproof durability that could handle every splash, drip, and spill. Families loved how easy it was to clean and how well it held up against the constant moisture of busy bathrooms. The patterns ranged from simple solids to elaborate designs, and the material felt sturdy underfoot in ways older floors never managed. Nobody realized that the backing layer contained asbestos fibers meant to strengthen the product and resist heat. As long as the flooring stayed intact, the danger remained sealed beneath the surface. But tiles cracked, edges curled, and everyday wear eventually exposed what was hidden underneath. When families renovated or replaced worn sections, they released microscopic fibers into the air they breathed. Scientists connected asbestos exposure to deadly lung diseases, and regulators banned the material from flooring products entirely. Many homes still contain this hidden hazard beneath newer layers, waiting to be disturbed by future repairs. The bathroom floor that once seemed practical became another example of danger hiding in plain sight. Triclocarban antibacterial bar soaps were marketed throughout the 1970s as the ultimate protection against germs, promising cleaner skin than ordinary soap could deliver. Families kept these bars beside bathroom sinks and in shower caddies, scrubbing hands and bodies with complete trust in their advertised power. The soap lathered richly and left behind a faint medicinal scent that made people feel thoroughly cleaned. Nobody questioned what made these bars different or whether the added chemicals were necessary. Triclocarban absorbed through the skin during every wash, accumulating in bodies and eventually washing down drains into waterways across the country. Scientists discovered that the chemical disrupted hormones, interfered with development, and persisted in the environment long after it left the bathroom. Fish and wildlife suffered as contaminated water spread through ecosystems. When regulators finally banned triclocarban from consumer soaps, the decision came after decades of use that had affected both human health and natural habitats. The antibacterial promise that once seemed reassuring had introduced risks nobody anticipated. Unvented gas bathroom heaters were installed in homes throughout the 1970s, providing instant warmth in small spaces where central heating could not reach. Families flicked them on during cold mornings, appreciating how quickly the chill disappeared from tile floors and frosted mirrors. The blue flames danced behind metal grates, and the gentle hiss of burning gas became a comforting backdrop to morning routines. Nobody thought about where the combustion byproducts went or what happened when fumes had nowhere to escape. Carbon monoxide, an odorless and invisible gas, built up silently in enclosed bathrooms where windows stayed shut against the cold. Families breathed it in while showering and shaving, never realizing the air itself was becoming dangerous. Symptoms like headaches and dizziness were often blamed on stress rather than the heater warming the room. When investigators connected deaths and hospitalizations to these unvented units, regulators moved quickly to ban them from residential use. The warmth that once felt welcoming had been masking a threat that could strike without warning. Coal tar dandruff shampoos with high concentrations were sold throughout the 1970s as the strongest solution for flaky, itchy scalps that refused to respond to gentler treatments. People massaged the dark, pungent liquid into their hair, letting it sit while the active ingredients worked into the skin. The smell was unmistakable, sharp, and almost industrial, but users tolerated it because the results seemed worth the discomfort. Nobody questioned what coal tar actually was or why something derived from industrial processes belonged on human heads. The compounds in coal tar included chemicals now recognized as carcinogens, capable of causing cancer with repeated exposure over time. Families used these shampoos for years, believing they were simply treating a cosmetic problem. When researchers documented the risks associated with high-concentration coal tar products, regulators moved to restrict the formulations allowed in consumer shampoos. The dandruff treatment that once seemed minor had introduced serious health concerns into a routine meant to improve appearance. Today, safer alternatives have replaced the strongest formulas. Electric space heaters without tip-over switches warmed bathroom floors throughout the 1970s, glowing orange as families stepped out of showers into rooms that would otherwise feel unbearably cold. People placed them on counters, beside tubs, and in corners where they could radiate heat across small spaces. The convenience seemed worth any risk, and families trusted that keeping the heater upright was simply common sense. Nobody imagined what would happen if a child knocked one over, or if a towel fell across the heating element. When heaters tipped, they continued running at full power, pressing scorching surfaces against carpet, bath mats, or anything beneath them. House fires started in bathrooms across the country, often while families slept unaware in nearby rooms. Investigators traced the pattern to heaters with no automatic shutoff when they left upright position. Regulators eventually required tip-over switches that cut power when a heater fell, but damage from earlier models had already scarred countless families. The warmth that felt like simple comfort had hidden a danger waiting to ignite. Methylene chloride paint strippers stored in bathrooms were used throughout the 1970s for touch-ups on tiles, fixtures, and surfaces that needed refreshing. Families kept the cans under sinks or in closets, reaching for them whenever old paint needed removing before a fresh coat could go on. The liquid worked fast, bubbling through layers of color and leaving surfaces ready for renewal. Nobody wore masks or gloves, and the small bathroom spaces offered almost no ventilation as fumes filled the air. Methylene chloride converts to carbon monoxide inside the human body, and in enclosed spaces the exposure can become fatal in minutes. People collapsed in bathrooms while working on simple weekend projects, overcome by a chemical they never realized was dangerous. The deaths accumulated quietly before regulators finally connected the pattern to this common household product. When the ban came, it arrived with urgent warnings about a substance that had been sitting in bathroom cabinets for decades. The paint stripper that promised easy home improvement had instead claimed lives in rooms where families should have felt safe. Coal tar shampoos at unregulated strengths were the go-to solution for anyone battling stubborn dandruff or itchy scalp conditions in the 1970s. These thick, dark liquids smelled strongly of industry and medicine, a scent people associated with serious treatment rather than danger. Families kept bottles in shower caddies, using them weekly or even daily without ever questioning the ingredients inside. The relief was real and the results were noticeable, which made people trust these products even more. Pharmacies stocked them openly, and doctors recommended them without hesitation. But coal tar is a complex mixture containing compounds now known to cause cancer with prolonged exposure. People rub these shampoos into their scalps, let them sit for minutes at a time, and rinse them down drains that carried the residue into water systems. By the time regulators understood the full scope of the risk, countless families had already used these products for years. Today, coal tar products are heavily restricted and require strict labeling. The shampoos that once promised clean, healthy scalps now remind us how easily medicine and danger can share the same bottle. Ungrounded two-prong electrical outlets were installed in every room of every home without anyone thinking twice. Electricians wired entire houses this way, and families plugged in lamps, televisions, and appliances without imagining any risk. The outlets looked simple and clean, and that simplicity felt safe. But these outlets lacked a grounding wire, the critical safety feature that redirects stray electrical current away from appliances and human bodies. When something shorted inside an appliance or moisture crept into a plug, electricity had nowhere safe to go. People received shocks reaching for toasters, touching lamp switches, or unplugging cords from damp bathroom walls. Fires started silently behind walls where overloaded circuits sparked against wood framing. Investigators traced countless fires and electrocution deaths back to these outlets. When building codes caught up, regulators required grounded three-prong systems in new construction and demanded upgrades in older homes. Families realized the outlets they trusted for decades were quiet hazards hiding behind every faceplate. It is a sobering reminder that familiar parts of a house can carry dangers nobody sees until tragedy strikes. Olestra fat-free snack foods were supposed to change the world, or at least the waistlines of America. When they hit the shelves in the 1990s, people could not believe it. Potato chips with all the flavor and none of the fat. Ads promised guilt-free indulgence, a revolution in snacking. The secret was Olestra, a synthetic fat molecule that passed through the body undigested. The science seemed sound, the dream flawless, until people started eating it. Within months, complaints poured in. The chips tasted fine, but they came with a terrible side effect: sudden, uncontrollable digestive distress. The phrase anal leakage became an unintentional part of pop culture. Consumers were horrified, and late-night comedians had a field day. Regulators eventually forced warning labels on Olestra products, and the once promising miracle faded into embarrassment. For a while, the brand tried to rebrand and reformulate, but the damage was done. People no longer trusted any food that claimed to cheat nature. The shelves emptied, and the name Olestra joined the long list of scientific missteps dressed up as progress. It was the perfect lesson of the modern food age. You can outsmart fat, but not the body. There was once a time when you could buy supersized McDonald's items not just in restaurants, but frozen in grocery stores, Burgers, fries, and breakfast sandwiches packaged for the home promised that same fast food flavor anytime, anywhere. It was a symbol of convenience, of America's unstoppable appetite for more. The frozen line sold well at first, feeding late-night cravings and quick dinners. But soon, the tide began to turn. Documentaries and health advocates exposed the growing obesity crisis, linking it to portion sizes and processed foods. The phrase "supersize" became a public target, a warning instead of a badge of indulgence. Laws requiring calorie disclosures and nutritional transparency pushed McDonald's to retire the branding entirely. Shelves that once held those frozen giants went empty, replaced by smaller, healthier options. For many, it marked the end of an era, a time when fast food felt fun, not frightening. Yet there is something undeniably nostalgic about those oversized meals, wrapped in red and gold packaging that promised happiness in minutes. They were part of a bigger cultural story, one about convenience, excess, and the simple joy of biting into something you knew you should not. And maybe, deep down, that is why people still miss them, not for the taste, but for the freedom they once represented. Bare bulb heat lamps for bathrooms were once seen as a luxurious upgrade, offering instant warmth during cold mornings when stepping out of the shower felt unbearable. Grandparents installed them proudly, believing these lamps were both comforting and practical, especially in older homes without central heating. The bright red bulbs glowed intensely, filling the bathroom with a warmth that felt almost spa-like. People trusted them completely, flicking the switch every morning without considering any risk beyond the heat itself. But bare bulbs are fragile, and these lamps were often placed dangerously close to moisture. If water splashed onto the hot surface, the bulb could shatter violently, sending glass shards across the bathroom. Worse, the exposed wiring and intense heat created real fire hazards in rooms filled with towels, curtains, and wooden cabinets. When safety investigators documented the number of injuries in home fires, regulators banned these lamps and required protective coverings for any bathroom heating fixtures. Families who once saw these bulbs as a luxury suddenly realized how hazardous they truly were. Today, modern heating systems and safer bulb designs have replaced those old fixtures, but the memory of that glowing red light still lingers in many households. It is unsettling to think that something meant to bring comfort carried such unpredictable risks behind its warm glow. Thimerosal preserved mascara was considered the height of modern cosmetic science in the 1970s, keeping eye makeup fresh and bacteria-free for months after opening. Women applied it daily, brushing dark pigment onto lashes just millimeters from their eyeballs, trusting that anything sold for such delicate use must be completely safe. The preservative worked brilliantly, preventing the growth of microbes that could cause serious eye infections. Makeup counters displayed these products proudly, and advertisements emphasized their purity and safety. But thimerosal contains mercury, and mercury does not belong anywhere near human tissue, especially not the delicate membranes surrounding the eyes. Small amounts absorbed with each application, building up over months and years of faithful use. Some women developed sensitivities, irritation, and mysterious symptoms they never connected to their makeup routine. When regulators finally acknowledged the dangers of mercury in cosmetics, thimerosal was banned from eye products entirely. The mascaras that once promised beauty and safety became cautionary tales about trusting labels too completely. DDT garden spray was once considered a miracle for anyone tired of battling insects that destroyed vegetable patches and flower beds. Homeowners in the 1970s sprayed it generously across lawns, shrubs, and garden rows, watching pests vanish overnight. The chemical promised protection without effort, and families trusted it the way they trusted aspirin. Children ran through treated yards, pets rolled across sprayed grass, and nobody worried because the product was sold everywhere as perfectly safe. But DDT did not disappear after application. It seeped into soil, traveled through water, and accumulated in the bodies of animals and humans alike. Researchers discovered the chemical disrupted hormones, weakened eggshells in birds, and posed serious risks to human health with prolonged exposure. The damage spread far beyond any backyard, contaminating ecosystems in ways that took decades to understand. When regulators banned DDT, families who had used it for years were stunned. Gardens that once felt like sanctuaries seemed tainted by a chemical legacy that would linger for generations. It remains one of the starkest examples of how good intentions carry consequences nobody anticipated. Sodium benzoate soft drinks in metal cans were the silent experiment no one asked for. The preservative sodium benzoate was widely used to keep sodas fresh and prevent spoilage. It seemed harmless. But when manufacturers began packaging those sodas in aluminum cans, they created an accidental chemistry experiment. The acid in the soda reacted with both the metal and the preservative, forming trace amounts of benzene, a known carcinogen. The reaction was slow and invisible, but over time it turned sealed cans into ticking health hazards. Consumers had no idea. The drinks tasted the same, fizzy and bright, a staple at picnics and drive-ins. When scientists finally uncovered the problem in the 1980s, it was a public relations nightmare. Companies rushed to change formulas, remove sodium benzoate, and test for safety. But the damage to trust had already been done. It was another case of innovation outpacing caution, of chemistry being used before it was fully understood. The soda cans of the 1950s represented the excitement of a new age, but also its recklessness. They glimmered with promise, even as they carried a danger that no one could see. And just like that, something as innocent as a soft drink became another entry in the long list of modern mistakes. Then there were Olestra chips, the so-called miracle snack of the 90s. They promised all the flavor of regular potato chips with none of the fat. For families trying to eat healthier, that was a dream come true. Bags of these chips filled grocery aisles with big labels that said fat-free and guilt-free. But the dream turned sour fast. People discovered that Olestra did not just remove fat, it also removed dignity. It blocked the body from absorbing essential vitamins and caused severe digestive distress. The stories spread fast, and suddenly the chips became the punchline of every late-night talk show. What started as a scientific breakthrough ended as a national embarrassment. Within a few years, Olestra was quietly pulled from shelves, never to return. It left behind a strange lesson about how far we are willing to go to keep the foods we love while pretending to make them better for us. Some things, it seems, were meant to stay full of fat and full of flavor. Old formula mothballs with naphthalene were once a staple in every storage chest, attic box, and seasonal clothing bin, used by grandparents who swore by their ability to protect garments from moths. These little white spheres had a pungent smell that filled entire closets, drifting into hallways and drawers with an intensity no one questioned. Back then, people saw mothballs as a simple necessity, something you tolerated for the sake of saving your favorite wool coat or treasured blanket. They were tossed into trunks, packed with winter clothes and placed in basements year after year. But naphthalene fumes did not just repel insects. They built up in the air and entered the lungs of anyone living near them, especially children and pets. Over time, researchers linked naphthalene exposure to anemia, liver damage, and respiratory illness, revealing dangers no one had imagined. Grandparents who thought they were preserving their belongings were unknowingly exposing themselves to toxic vapors floating through their own homes. As the health risks became widely recognized, regulators banned the naphthalene versions and replaced them with safer formulations. Many families were shocked to learn the truth about something they had used for so many years without hesitation. Even today, the sharp smell of old mothballs can bring back memories, but it also carries a reminder that not every household tradition stands the test of time. These tiny spheres left behind a long legacy of both protection and unintended harm. Lead-soldered cans were once the height of convenience, sitting proudly on pantry shelves filled with soups, beans, and vegetables. Housewives in the 1950s relied on them for quick dinners, trusting the gleam of the metal and the weight of the can. No one knew that each meal came with a hidden dose of poison. The solder that sealed those cans was made from lead, a heavy metal that slowly seeped into whatever food it touched. Over time, families unknowingly ingested trace amounts that built up in their bodies. Children suffered the most. Fatigue, headaches, and developmental issues doctors struggled to explain. It took years of investigation before the truth surfaced. These ordinary cans were silently toxic. Once the government finally stepped in, the change was swift and absolute. Modern cans switched to safer materials, but the memory lingered. An entire generation raised on food that was convenient, cheap, and quietly dangerous. Asbestos vinyl floor tiles were the flooring of choice for kitchens, basements, and bathrooms throughout the 1970s because they were affordable, durable, and easy to install. Homeowners loved the patterns and the way they resisted moisture better than hardwood. Contractors recommended them constantly, and hardware stores stacked them high in every aisle. People walked across these tiles barefoot, mopped them weekly, and never suspected the material keeping them sturdy was slowly becoming deadly. The problem began when tiles aged, cracked, or needed replacement. Cutting or breaking old tiles released microscopic asbestos fibers into the air, fibers so small they lodged deep in the lungs. For years, families renovated without masks, creating clouds of invisible contamination in their own homes. Researchers linked asbestos exposure to mesothelioma and fatal lung diseases, and the ban followed with grim urgency. Today, removing old asbestos flooring requires hazmat suits, sealed work areas, and professional disposal. It is unsettling to think that a kitchen floor could quietly become one of the most dangerous surfaces in the home. Bisphenol antibacterial soaps were marketed as powerful germ fighters during the 1970s, promising cleaner skin and better hygiene than ordinary soap could deliver. Families purchased them for kitchens, bathrooms, and anywhere cleanliness mattered most. The antibacterial agent worked impressively, killing bacteria on contact and leaving skin feeling squeaky clean. People trusted the label, believing that anything sold as antibacterial must be safer and more effective than regular alternatives. What nobody anticipated was how bisphenol reacted with sunlight on exposed skin. Some users developed severe photosensitivity reactions, breaking out in painful rashes and blisters after spending even brief moments outdoors. The connection between the soap and the sun damage took time to establish because the reactions seemed random and unexplainable at first. Dermatologists eventually traced the problem back to residue left on skin after washing. When regulators confirmed the dangers, bisphenol was banned from consumer soaps entirely. The product that promised cleaner, healthier skin ended up causing painful disfigurement for people who simply wanted to wash their hands and step outside. There was a time when ketchup came in colors you would never believe. Green Heinz EZ Squirt hit shelves in the early 2000s and turned every kid's meal into a wild art project. The company wanted to make eating fun again. Bright purple, blue, and green sauces that squirted out of rocket-shaped bottles. Parents bought them by the dozen, and kids painted their French fries and hot dogs like edible canvases. The ketchup splattered across plates and lunch tables, creating masterpieces no art class could ever allow. Children squealed with laughter, while parents wondered how they would ever clean it off. For a brief, chaotic moment, dinner felt like finger painting with food, but the colors came at a cost. Those neon hues were powered by synthetic dyes later linked to behavioral issues and health risks in children. When regulations tightened around artificial food colorings, Heinz quietly pulled the plug. The bottles vanished, leaving behind only memories of bright green burgers and blue spaghetti nights. It was a strange experiment in marketing, one that proved just how far people would go for a dash of novelty at the dinner table. Still, anyone who grew up with EZ Squirt remembers it fondly, because nothing tasted quite like ketchup that looked like slime. Lead water pipes and plumbing solder delivered drinking water to millions of homes throughout the 1970s, and nobody thought twice about turning on the tap. The metal was soft, easy to work with, and created tight, durable joints that lasted for decades. Plumbers trusted it, homeowners trusted it, and entire neighborhoods drank, cooked, and bathed using water that passed through lead every single day. The problem was invisible. Lead leached slowly into water, especially when pipes corroded or when water sat still overnight. Families filled glasses, made baby formula, and boiled pasta without any idea that every sip carried traces of poison accumulating in the body. Children absorbed it faster than adults, suffering damage to developing brains that could never be undone. When researchers connected widespread lead poisoning to household plumbing, the response was urgent. Regulators banned lead pipes and solder in new construction and launched programs to replace aging infrastructure. But for families who had already been exposed for years, the damage was done. Today, older homes still carry this hidden threat behind walls and under floors, waiting to be discovered. In the 1950s, DDT was a household name for all the wrong reasons. Farmers, grocers, and even homemakers believed it was a miracle, a chemical that could protect crops from pests and keep fruits looking fresh for weeks. Produce was sprayed, dusted, and even rinsed in it before hitting grocery shelves. Apples gleamed brighter, tomatoes stayed red longer, and no one questioned it. You could not see the danger, and that made it easy to ignore. Decades later, scientists discovered that DDT was more than just a pesticide. It was a poison that lingered in soil, water, and even human tissue. It killed insects, yes, but it also harmed birds, fish, and people. The chemical built up in the environment until its effects could not be denied. The once fresh produce of the 1950s became a warning from history. What we cannot see can still hurt us. When DDT was banned, it marked a turning point in how America thought about safety, trust, and the true cost of convenience. Lead paint on interior walls and woodwork was once the gold standard for any home looking to impress. The rich, glossy finish covered everything from bedroom walls to kitchen cabinets, and the colors seemed to last forever without fading or chipping. People trusted it because it covered beautifully, dried quickly, and felt like the modern choice for families in the 1970s. Parents painted nurseries and playrooms without a second thought, believing they were creating cheerful spaces for their children. Nobody imagined that the surfaces their kids touched and breathed near were releasing something dangerous. As paint aged, it cracked into chips that created dust drifting through the house. Researchers connected lead exposure to brain damage, learning disabilities, and behavioral problems in children. By the time regulators banned lead paint, millions of homes were already coated. Families were left wondering what they had unknowingly done to the children they tried to protect. It remains one of the most haunting reminders that walls meant to shelter us once carried poison hidden in their shine. Long before energy drinks became common, Jolt Cola was already rewriting the rules of caffeine. Its slogan said it all the sugar and twice the caffeine. In the 80s, that made it the ultimate rebel's drink. It was for gamers, coders, students pulling all-nighters, and anyone who wanted to feel like they were living on the edge of exhaustion. It tasted like liquid chaos, sweet enough to jolt you awake and strong enough to make your hands tremble after a few cans. Parents hated it, which only made it more appealing. For teenagers, drinking Jolt was not about taste. It was about rebellion. Supermarkets stacked cases of it, and teenagers wore their Jolt pride like a badge of honor. But as caffeine limits tightened and parents grew concerned about hyperactive kids bouncing off the walls, the drink became a symbol of excess. Regulators started cracking down, and Jolt slowly disappeared from the mainstream. It did not vanish with a bang. It just fizzled away like the last sip of a flat cola. Still, those who remember that metallic sweetness and electric buzz can tell you, it was more than a drink. It was pure adrenaline in a can, and once you tried it, nothing else quite hit the same. PCP, treated leather goods, were once sold everywhere, from department stores to small clothing shops, offering belts, handbags, and jackets preserved with pentachlorophenol. Grandparents purchased them because they were durable, resistant to mold, and had a polished finish that made them look high quality. Back then, leather was expected to last for years, and PCP treatments were marketed as the perfect way to ensure longevity. Families rarely questioned what kept their belts from cracking or their purses from collecting mildew. But pentachlorophenol is a toxic chemical that seeps into skin on contact and releases fumes slowly over time, researchers found that even casual handling caused exposure to a substance linked to liver damage, immune system issues, and long-term health effects. Children especially absorbed the chemical quickly when they touched bags or jackets treated with it. Once these dangers became public, regulators banned PCP for consumer products, forcing companies to switch to safer preservation methods. Families who owned older leather goods often had no idea they had been carrying or wearing something harmful for years. The contrast between a stylish accessory and the chemical hiding inside it made PCP-treated leather one of the more surprising household hazards of its time. Today, these items remind us that fashion can sometimes carry invisible risks that no one suspects until the science catches up. Kerosene space heaters without venting were a lifeline for families saving money during cold winters in the 1970s. People placed them in living rooms, bedrooms, and basements, watching the warm glow spread across the floor as the chill faded. The heaters felt practical and efficient, a quick solution when central heating could not keep up or when the oil bill climbed too high. Families gathered around them the way they might gather around a fireplace, trusting the warmth completely. But these heaters burned fuel indoors without any exhaust system, quietly releasing carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide directly into the air. In tightly sealed homes, the buildup could become deadly within hours. Some families went to sleep warm and never woke up, while others suffered headaches and confusion they could not explain. When investigators traced deaths to unvented kerosene heaters, regulators moved to ban the most dangerous models entirely. Families who relied on them for years were stunned to learn how close they had come to tragedy. Today, only properly vented heaters are allowed, but the memory of those silent dangers lingers. Coca-Cola with real coca extract was one of those open secrets everyone knew but no one mentioned. The original formula, created decades earlier, contained trace amounts of coca leaf, the same plant used to make cocaine. By the 1950s, the company claimed to have removed it, but in some rural bottling plants, the old recipe still found its way into production. It gave the soda a unique kick, a kind of energy that people swore by. No one called it addiction back then. They just said it helped them get through the day. Coca-Cola was more than a drink. It was America's tonic, its pick-me-up, its symbol of modern energy. But once the truth became impossible to ignore, Coca-Cola quietly changed its process for good. What was left was still iconic, but a little less wild, a little more safe. It's funny to think that one of the most innocent brands in American history was once powered by something so forbidden. Phenylmercuric acetate in eye cosmetics was one of those invisible ingredients that consumers never thought to question during the 1970s. It appeared in eyeliners, eyeshadows, and various products designed to enhance the most expressive and delicate part of the face. Manufacturers added it as a preservative, and regulators allowed it because the science of the era did not yet fully grasp how dangerous even small amounts of mercury compounds could be. Women applied these products morning after morning, layering colors and lines across skin so thin and absorbent that penetration was almost guaranteed. The elegance of a perfectly lined eye came with a hidden cost that accumulated silently inside the body. Mercury built up in tissues, affecting kidneys, nerves, and brain function in ways that often went undiagnosed for years. When modern research finally revealed the truth about mercury absorption through regular cosmetic use, the bans were immediate and absolute. Those glamorous compacts and elegant pencils that once symbolized sophistication became stark warnings about how easily beauty can mask danger. Back in the 1970s, a strange panic swept the candy aisle, the disappearance of red M&Ms. The culprit was red dye number 2, a synthetic coloring agent suspected of being carcinogenic. Mars pulled the red candies entirely, even though the specific dye was never used in M&Ms to begin with. Still, perception was stronger than fact. The empty red spaces in the bag made the other colors feel lonelier, like a rainbow missing its heart. Parents whispered warnings while kids traded rumors about the candy that could supposedly kill you. For almost a decade, the world's favorite chocolate candy had no red pieces. Kids traded theories on playgrounds and stared at colorless handfuls, wondering what was so dangerous about red. When red M&Ms finally returned with a new formula, it felt like a national celebration. People did not just get a color back, they got a piece of the past restored. It is funny how something so small could symbolize trust, fear, and nostalgia all at once. Today, that red candy means something different. It is a tiny reminder of how our food and our fears often share the same shade. If any of these forgotten bathroom dangers stirred a memory or a shiver, share your story in the comments below, tap like to help others discover the truth, and subscribe so you never miss the history hiding in your own home.